And just like that, the party realizes they've stumbled into the final boss of a nightmare-level dungeon. Meet Sabaramus, the level 67 wingless dragon, who looks like he gargles lava for fun. He immediately starts charging a breath attack that could wipe a city off the map. The team's tank is sweating bullets, admitting his ultimate defense skill might as well be a paper fan. But right as they brace for the end, the tank spots something impossible cutting through the flames. It's small, green, and walking through the inferno like it's a casual stroll in the park. You have got to be kidding me. A single solitary goblin just stepped between the party and certain doom. Everyone's thinking the same thing. What in the world is a low-level mob doing here? The dragon doesn't care. It unleashes its world-ending fire blast right at the tiny goblin. But this goblin doesn't just survive. He's literally eating the dragon's ultimate attack with a massive grin on his face. Full of dragon fire and rage, the goblin becomes a living missile aimed straight at the boss. The party is absolutely stunned. The goblin didn't just block the attack, it one-shotted the dragon. And just like that, the nightmare-level boss is reduced to a loot drop by a goblin? But the real shocker isn't the dead dragon. It's the figure they spot watching from a nearby cliff. That smug grin can only belong to one person, the guy they all wrote off as a total nobody. This isn't just some random monster, it's a summon, and its master is the last person they ever expected. But to understand this guy, we have to rewind to his life before all this, a powerless construction worker just trying to get by. In his mind, he wasn't a hero or a player. He saw himself as the weakest of the weak. He believed he was destined to be stuck at the bottom, forever grinding in the tutorial levels of life. Because in this world, no matter how hard you fight, some are just born to lose. Or so he thought. Back in the real world, our guy is just another face in the crowd, overhearing gossip that's about to change his life. They're talking about a game called Heaven's Door, where a lucky few find hidden classes and get filthy rich overnight. This isn't just a game, it's a second reality so immersive that people are choosing it over their actual lives. And thanks to cheap VR cafes, even a broke construction worker like him can get a taste of a better life. But where there's demand, there's money. And soon, the line between the game world and the real world began to blur. Suddenly, killing monsters and finding loot wasn't just a hobby, it became a legitimate career path. For our hero, this new world was a chance to escape, but that feeling didn't last long. Because while others were becoming legends, he was stuck with the most pathetic job imaginable. His ultimate skill? It's literally just hitting rocks with a pickaxe for a few measly pieces of ore. He escaped his dead-end job only to find himself in another one, drowning in debt both in-game and out. He's not just broke, he's having a full-blown existential crisis in a digital cave, and just when he's about to log off from life, his pickaxe hits the jackpot. The guy goes full goblin mode because this one rock is worth more than his entire real-world apartment, but his private victory party is about to be crashed by some very high-level guests. And of course, they're led by a woman who looks like a final boss and a guy with a punchable face. Turns out these elite players have a problem that only a professional rock smasher can solve. They want to hire him, but he knows a low-level scrub like him is basically a walking health potion for dungeon monsters. They promise to protect him. All he has to do is break rocks and try not to get squashed. He immediately puts his foot in his mouth, learning rule number 1. Don't profile the dwarf. But the promise of free EXP and rare loot is too good to pass up. This is his one shot to climb out of the gutter. He's terrified, because in this game, dying isn't the worst thing that can happen. But his fear is immediately replaced by a different kind of panic when the party leader starts getting a little too friendly. And our boy, desperate for any kind of validation, agrees before his brain can even catch up. Their first encounter is a pack of level 7 wolves, a cakewalk for the pros but a death sentence for him. He might have a high-level escort, but that doesn't stop him from being the perfect bait. Faced with certain doom, our hero lets out a battle cry that would make his mother very concerned. But just as the wolf is about to get a free meal, the party's mage steps in with a single command. She unleashes a spell that turns the entire cavern into a raging inferno, wiping everything out instantly. This is Catherine Lee, a level 39 magician who just saved his life without breaking a sweat. And in that moment, he realizes he's not just playing with the pros, he's in a completely different league. She's not just saving him, she's practically begging him to stay glued to her side, and our boy's brain completely short-circuits, thinking he's just unlocked the secret romance route. Meanwhile, the rest of the party is treating this life-or-death dungeon like a casual Tuesday. The party's fighter clears the room with a single swing, proving that for them, this is just pest control. And now we get the real story. They're not here for wolves. They're here for a rock only a master miner can crack. But the way he says they need people like him hits a nerve, a very, very deep nerve. He's not just a tool to be used, and he's about to let this arrogant fighter know it. He steps up, challenging the high ranker directly. "You think I can't fight?" He rears back with his pickaxe, ready to unleash his hidden power and prove them all wrong. Except he has no hidden power and immediately goes back to smashing rocks while having an internal meltdown. While our hero has his little breakdown, the party's fighter starts making some not-so-subtle threats about their investment. And he makes it crystal clear, if this whole trip is a bust, the dwarf is going to pay the price. But our hero is so used to being stepped on, the worst part is that he's not even surprised anymore. He pours all that rage into one final swing, ready to just end this miserable day. And with one strike, he doesn't just break the rock, he shatters the entire dungeon wall. Suddenly, the whole party freezes, because what they're seeing shouldn't even be possible. He didn't just find ore, he found the one thing every player dreams of, a hidden dungeon. Even the arrogant fighter is in disbelief. They've stumbled upon a literal gold mine. The dwarf is already dreaming of hidden classes and legendary loot, thinking their fortunes are made. But the party leader's smile turns cold as she asks a single, chilling question. "We?" He's dreaming of a new life, completely oblivious to the blade aimed right at his back. And in a flash, the system confirms his worst nightmare. His own party has turned on him. One hit is all it takes to drop him, his dream of a better life turning to dust. As he's bleeding out, they finally admit the truth. He was never part of the team, just the key to the door. It all clicks into place, the kindness, the protection. It was all a lie to get to this dungeon. The fighter doesn't even try to hide it, promising a quick end now that he's served his purpose. But he wakes up, not in a respawn point, but right where he fell, wondering if they had a change of heart. Nope, no decency here. They just made sure his auto-revive crystal was used up before they left him for dead. Forget the betrayal, forget the near-death experience. They stole his life savings and now it's personal. But they made one fatal mistake. The dungeon door is still open and the guy they left behind is about to crash their party. He's not just angry, he's ready to burn their whole world down and rebuild his own from the ashes. This isn't just about revenge anymore, it's about making them regret the day they ever looked down on him. He makes a vow right then and there. He's not just going to beat them, he's going to become their worst nightmare. Fueled by pure rage, he makes a mad dash for the one chance he has left, the hidden dungeon. With a final leap of faith, he dives headfirst into the unknown, ready to face whatever's inside. And his epic revenge-fueled entrance is immediately ruined by a flight of freaking stairs. He faceplants so hard he loses most of his health. The first boss of the dungeon is gravity. But he's in, barely alive with 20 HP, and he's officially inside the legendary hidden dungeon. His first sight isn't treasure or a dragon, but a massive goblin king chilling on a throne like he owns the place. But after all that hype, he starts to wonder, is this legendary dungeon really just full of low-level goblins? He's getting cocky, wondering where his old party is, but the eerie silence of this place is starting to get to him. And that's when he finds the first clue, something that absolutely should not be here. It's the dwarf from his party, or what's left of him after the dungeon's welcome committee was done. The high and mighty ranker who threatened him was just taken out like a tutorial mob. Even worse, the system confirms it. Whatever did this, there's no coming back from it. But our boy, completely missing the point, just thinks the dwarf is too greedy to hit the respawn button. That's when the game itself screams a warning that freezes his blood. Get out now! In that single moment, he realizes this wasn't a hidden dungeon. It was a slaughterhouse. He recognizes the voice from the system warning, but he doesn't have time to process why. Because the real boss of this dungeon has decided to introduce himself personally. And it's not just the dwarf. The dungeon's real boss has already gotten its hands on the mage who betrayed him. This isn't a goblin shrine. It's a feeding ground for a level 80 nightmare that makes dragons look like house pets. Level 80? Our boy is so far out of his league, he's not even playing the same sport anymore. Before he can even scream, the monster snatches him up, ready to turn him into an afternoon snack. The pressure is so intense, he can feel his bones starting to complain in a way no game ever should. And that's when the worst-case scenario hits him. This game's realism isn't a feature, it's a curse. Sure, the game has safety features to dull the pain from low-level mobs, but Catherine's screams are proof that against a high-level boss, those safeties are turned completely off. She's begging for help, but he's frozen. How do you fight a god when you're still stuck in the tutorial? Because in this game, the pain is so real, it can cross over and cause actual permanent brain death. Faced with real-world consequences, our hero makes a tactical decision. Nope out of there as fast as humanly possible. And in a stunning display of self-preservation, he decides this is all their fault for betraying him in the first place. His logic is simple. He's weak, so it's not his problem. Let the pros handle it, right? And just like that, his fear turns into a twisted, desperate resolve to survive, no matter who he has to leave behind. But just as he's about to abandon all hope, the game throws him the most insulting lifeline imaginable. The Goblin Lord itself calls him out, and suddenly he's not just running from a monster, he's facing a judgment. And that one insult is enough to make him snap, unleashing a lifetime of frustration at the universe. He screams that he never chose to be powerless, his rage echoing through the silent dungeon. He roars that with even a little power he would have fought. But his words are cut short as the monster ends Catherine's struggle for good. Because this isn't just about a game anymore, it's about a man who's been looked down on his entire life. He unleashes a lifetime of rage, screaming that he wanted to be a hero, not a glorified construction worker. His whole life has been one big tutorial level, and he's screaming at the universe that he never did anything to deserve it. He takes all that anger out on the Goblin King, refusing to be looked down on by a low-level mob. And in a moment of pure defiance, he screams that if the world sees him as a goblin, then fine. He'll become a goblin. The game itself seems to hear his cry, and suddenly he's staring at the one thing every player dreams of: a hidden class quest. But this isn't some legendary Dragon Knight class. The game wants to make him a Goblin Summoner. He absolutely loses it, laughing through tears as he tells the system to take its pathetic offer and shove it. Too bad for him, the game doesn't take no for an answer, and the class change is completed against his will. But his new job title is the least of his worries, because the dungeon's real boss is done playing with its food. It's too late to run, and in that moment he knows his old life is over and his new terrifying one is just beginning. Forced into a class he despises, he summons his first minion, already complaining that the light show is too good for a goblin. And the universe delivers, a creature so pathetic it looks like it just lost a fight with a wet noodle. But in that pathetic creature, he sees his ticket out, a perfect disposable distraction. "Go get him, champ," he yells, sending his brand new level 1 meat shield straight into the grinder. And the dungeon's personal nightmare is more than happy to play along, ready to devour the appetizer. The plan is working perfectly, and he's already halfway to the exit before the screaming even starts. But wait, the goblin isn't a meat shield, it's a cannon, and it just fired a blast that has the boss reeling. His entire worldview shatters in a single moment of pure, unadulterated confusion. Then the system goes absolutely berserk, drowning him in a tidal wave of experience points. He's not just leveling up, he's unlocking skills that prove this joke class might be the most broken thing in the entire game. And it's not just him. His goblin is power leveling so fast the system can barely keep up. He's staring at this pathetic-looking mob, and his brain is just refusing to process what he's seeing. Because this isn't a level 1 summon, it's a max-level nightmare that just broke the entire game. The dungeon boss learns a hard lesson. Never ever underestimate a goblin with a god complex. But while our hero is having his mind blown, Catherine is experiencing the game's most terrifying feature. Because the pain isn't just in the game, it's flooding her mind in the real world. And we cut to a high-tech lab where a man in a suit is desperately trying to wake up the woman in the pod. He tries to force a log out, but it's too late. The system has her locked in. That's when he realizes this isn't just a game crash, it's something far, far worse. The shock is too much, and her mind just gives up. In this world, they call it a retirement. His pathetic little goblin is now a one-shotting, dungeon-clearing machine. The EXP is flowing so fast, the system notifications are struggling to keep up. With every monster it obliterates, our hero's level just keeps climbing into the stratosphere. He's literally begging his goblin to take a 5-minute break so he can pick up all the loot. In minutes, he's gone from a level 1 nobody to a level 31 player drowning in more wealth than he's ever seen. But then reality hits. He cleared the dungeon, but with his party gone, there's no way out but death. And that's when he realizes the most broken part. His goblin did all the work and didn't even gain a single level. He's staring at his summon, convinced he hasn't found a hidden class. He's found a game-breaking bug. And if it's a bug, he's going to ride this glitch all the way to the top before anyone can stop him. But his plans for godhood are put on hold, because back in the real world, it's time to pay the bills. He's at the bank, turning digital loot into real-world cash, and he's still wrapping his head around how this is even possible. But he's not just cashing out pocket change. He's about to drop a financial bomb on this unsuspecting teller. He pulls out the loot from the hidden dungeon, and the teller's professional smile starts to crack. Because the number she's looking at isn't just big, it's call the manager big. And just like that, our boy's transaction has escalated from a simple deposit to a full-blown bank-wide emergency. He's immediately escorted to the VIP room by the bank manager, who looks way too happy to see him. The manager serves him cold tea, and our hero's internal alarm bells start ringing like a fire drill. He cuts right to the chase, but the manager's friendly chat is clearly a prelude to something else. And there it is, the classic investment opportunity pitch, because new money is the oldest bait in the book. But our hero isn't the same broke pushover anymore. He knows when he's being played. The manager smiles, telling him his estimate is off by a few $100 million. Because that pile of loot is worth over 200 million won, and our boy's brain just blue-screened. He's so happy he logs back in to thank his little green money printer, who apparently just shows up whenever he feels like it. He tries to call his goblin cute, but even he can't lie that well. Time to put the little guy away before he scares the locals. Except he can't. The unsummoned command fails, and now he's stuck with a clingy goblin in the middle of a crowded city. And just like that, they're the center of attention for all the wrong reasons. The crowd starts mocking the ugly goblin, but they're looking right at him, and our hero is about to have a public identity crisis. But his goblin won't stand for the slander and decides to pick a fight with the biggest guy in the square. The goblin looks confused. It's used to one-shotting everything it touches, but this guy didn't even flinch. And now he's got the attention of a high-level player who looks like he's about to turn his summon into a green smear on the pavement. The guy my goblin just picked a fight with isn't some random player. He's Patton the Annihilator, a title so cringe he had to give it to himself. And our hero's internal monologue is just a single repeating thought. This is very, very bad. He screams that his goblin isn't a monster, because anyone who calls himself the Annihilator isn't going to ask questions first. But Patton doesn't listen, unleashing a full-power strike that does absolutely nothing. The goblin, however, responds with a single rock and deals enough damage to make the server lag. The system helpfully explains that PK pain is capped to prevent bullying, a rule that just backfired spectacularly. And just like that, Patton the Annihilator gets annihilated by a goblin, and the entire city square loses its mind. Our hero's only thought is that if anyone connects him to this chaos, he's a dead man walking. But just when he thinks it can't get worse, a new player steps out of the crowd and she is not impressed. Turns out Patton wasn't a solo act. He's part of an entire guild of assassins, and their leader just put a target on my goblin's back. He's not worried about his goblin losing. He's terrified of what happens when it wins in front of the whole city. He tries to play peacemaker, but the assassins make it clear, interfere and you're next on the list. While he's trying to negotiate, his goblin is already winding up for another one-shot special delivery. And just like that, another elite player gets deleted from the server by a single pebble. His dream of a quiet, rich life is officially over, as an entire guild of assassins now wants him dead. But just when he's cornered, a mysterious old man offers him a way out of the chaos. With no other choice, he follows the stranger, running blindly toward a potential rescue. Except it's not a rescue, it's a trap, and he just ran headfirst into his own ambush. As if things weren't bad enough, the game itself decides this is the perfect time for a pop-up notification. The system just called his desperate escape sneaky and gave him a point for it, and he is not flattered. He's not just mad at the assassins, he's having a full-blown argument with the universe for calling him weak. And after all that, the game has the nerve to call him sneaky for trying not to die, and he has had it. And in that moment, he realizes he's not the problem, the world is. He's done being the world's punching bag, and he's demanding an answer from the universe itself. He was betrayed, used, and left for dead, and that rage is about to be weaponized. He turns to his goblin, and in that moment, they're not master and summon, they're a declaration of war. Forget running, forget hiding. He's going to dismantle the entire guild that just tried to end him. Meanwhile, the assassins are closing in, thinking this is just another rooftop chase. The guild's second-in-command is already bored, thinking she could handle this nobody all by herself. But their leader isn't so sure, warning her that whatever one-shotted their weakest link is a threat they can't afford to underestimate. The guild leader hears the screams of her men, and her calm demeanor shatters instantly. Because the first casualty of this war isn't some random grunt, it's the very man who set the trap. And in that moment, our hero and his goblin share one single, terrifying thought. Let them come. The next assassin charges in, ready to avenge his fallen comrade with a full power strike. But his ultimate move hits the goblin and does absolutely nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. The assassin's confidence evaporates, realizing the stories were true. This isn't a mob, it's a monster. And in the split second before the end, he understands he didn't corner a rabbit. He cornered a god. He tries a desperate counter, but the goblin moves like a phantom, weaving through his attacks with ease. The assassin can't believe it. His blade, which has ended countless players, was just blocked by a low-level summon. The guild leader is absolutely losing it, screaming at her elite assassins for getting styled on by a goblin. The assassin's ego takes a critical hit. His legendary title, the Deathbringer, is being tested by a goblin. He's in full-blown denial, convinced there's no way a low-level mob is this strong. It has to be a trick. So he decides to stop playing games and activates a skill so edgy, it's literally called Extreme Evil. This isn't just a debuff. It's a death sentence that slows you to a crawl and guarantees every hit is a critical. The guild leader calls him out for the overkill, but he just flexes that for him, this ultimate skill is basically on autopilot. Their plan is simple. One-shot the goblin, then hunt down its master like the nobody he is. The leader agrees, but she's practically dying of embarrassment that this is even a fight. So she unleashes her own ultimate, complaining that using combo skills on a goblin is a new career low. But this isn't just an attack, it's a support spell that cleanses her partner, turning him into a lightning-fast killing machine. With every buff imaginable stacked, the assassin becomes a living weapon and promises the goblin that playtime is officially over. He lunges forward, a blur of green energy ready to erase the goblin from existence. But his ultimate guild-defining attack connects and nothing happens. His face says it all, and the goblin just gives him a look that says, "You done yet, pal?" One punch later, and the guild's elite assassin is sent flying with enough force to crack the server itself. And from the dust steps our hero, asking the guild leader who's really getting one-shotted today. She's completely floored, finally realizing this isn't just a goblin, it's a walking apocalypse. Our boy steps into the light with a grin, confirming that yes, this little monster is all his. She can't believe it. The guy who just got deleted was one of their top rankers, a legend in their guild. But he cuts her off, his face twisting into pure rage as he tells her the only thing that matters is that he is extremely angry. She demands to know what they did to deserve this, and he just asks if she really needs him to spell it out for her. He tries to explain his rage, but his choice of words comes out so unhinged, she thinks he's a full-blown psychopath. His attempt to backtrack only makes it worse, as every word he says digs him into a deeper, more awkward hole. In a panic, he gives his goblin the worst possible command: stop her from screaming. But it's too late. The commotion has drawn a crowd, and now they have a very public audience. And of course, it's the same crowd that saw his goblin turn Patton the Annihilator into a meme. Realizing his revenge tour is about to become a public execution, he decides it's time to make a run for it. But his goblin takes the order a little too literally, silencing the guild leader in the most compromising way imaginable. The crowd below completely misreads the situation, and suddenly he's not a vigilante. He's the villain of the story. He wanted revenge, but now he's public enemy number one, and there's absolutely nowhere left to run. He screams for the goblin to let her go, only to watch in horror as his summon casually tosses her off the roof. The crowd is putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5. They think this beginner is about to solo the monster that wiped an entire guild. The guild leader is at the mercy of the goblin, and our hero's reputation is hanging by a single, misunderstood thread. He screams for it to stop, his voice cracking with desperation, trying to end this absolute nightmare. He declares that it's all over, but the crowd hears a hero's challenge, not a panicked surrender. And just like that, the entire city square erupts, cheering for the mysterious hero who's about to take down the goblin menace. He's gone from public enemy to the people's champion in 30 seconds flat, and they're all screaming for him to be the hero they think he is. Our boy is having a full system error, completely baffled as to why he's getting cheers instead of pitchforks. And then it hits him. They don't know he's the summoner. They think he's the hero. He remembers his exact words, realizing his attempt to de-escalate was misinterpreted as the most epic challenge in the history of the game. He didn't just accidentally become a hero, he's now the star of a citywide misunderstanding, with the damsel in distress calling his name. He leans into the role, looking down at the chaos with a hero's resolve, declaring, "It's all over for you now." But inside his head, he's having a complete meltdown, realizing he's just been cast as the lead in a blockbuster he never auditioned for. And the villain he's supposed to defeat? The one terrorizing the city? Yeah, that's his goblin. So he leans in close to the damsel in distress and gives her a choice. Stay quiet about his secret, or find out what happened to her friends. The guild leader, who just seconds ago was a feared assassin, is now so terrified she'd promise him anything. With her silence secured, he turns back to the crowd with a smile that says, "Problem solved," but looks like, "I own you now." And now, for the grand finale, he puts on the performance of a lifetime, publicly shaming the goblin for its crimes. He screams that he's the one who will stop this menace, and the entire city is eating it up. And just when you think it can't get any weirder, the game gives him a new skill: Walk the Goblin. He literally puts his world-ending summon on a leash and drags it away, screaming about justice while the crowd goes wild for their new hero. He yanks the leash and the goblin goes flying. The performance has officially begun. He slams the monster into the ground, putting on a show that would make a theater critic weep. With a look of pure, heroic determination, he sells the lie that he's in a life-or-death struggle. The crowd is completely fooled, thinking he's using an advanced restraining skill they've only heard of in legends. He tells the crowd he can barely contain it, while the system reveals the goblin is actually enjoying its walk. The guild leader is now convinced he's a legendary player, estimating his level is somewhere in the stratosphere. And the crowd finally gets it. The assassins weren't weak. This guy is just a god walking among mortals. He declares he'll chase the beast away, and a new skill activates, ready to deliver the final blow. But his ultimate world-saving skill isn't a meteor storm. It's goblin feeding, and it just summoned a sausage. He hurls the sausage with the fury of 1,000 suns, screaming, "This is your end," as the crowd holds its breath. The goblin plays its part perfectly, fleeing in terror after the mighty sausage of doom. He sells the performance, screaming for the guards to lock down the city before the monster escapes. The goblin makes a mad dash for the exit, and the entire city holds its breath. And with a thunderous crash, the gates slam shut, trapping the beast outside the walls. The crowd is in stunned silence, barely daring to believe the nightmare is finally over. Wiping the sweat from his brow, our hero turns to the city he just saved, and the entire square erupts, chanting the name of the hero who single-handedly saved them all. He breathes a sigh of relief, thinking he's finally out of the woods, but he's forgotten one crucial detail. The guild leader reminds him that while her friends are gone, she's still here, and she knows everything. Just when he thought he'd won, he realizes his biggest threat is standing right behind him. He's not just letting her go, he's already thinking of how to use his new ally. She explains that this city is a safe zone where no one can be harmed, or so she thinks. But our boy has a PhD in loopholes and promises to make her regret it forever if she ever talks. And just like that, the most feared assassin in the city is reduced to a terrified mess. Later that night, he tries to convince himself he's still the good guy in this story. He's literally patting himself on the back for blackmailing his way into a 5-star hotel room. But a flash of guilt reminds him of Catherine and the powerlessness that forced him to become this monster. That's when he remembers the weirdest reward he got from the Goblin King, a single mysterious goblin point. The game literally gave him a point for being cunning, and he's starting to think this class was tailor-made for him. He pulls up the Goblin Skill Store, ready to spend his first point on the path to becoming a legend. He sees a skill called Rally, and without a second thought decides to find out what it does. And just like that, his world-ending summon is back, screaming like a heavy metal frontman. The goblin gets a little too close for comfort, and our hero's soul just about leaves his body. He realizes Rally was a recall skill, and now he's trying to hide a public menace in his 5-star hotel room. Of course, that's the exact moment the innkeeper decides to check in, and his cover is about to be blown. He's literally wrestling his own summon, begging it to be quiet while apologizing for the chaos he caused. But in the quiet after the storm, he realizes the goblin was just like him, mocked and attacked for no reason. And in that moment, he doesn't see a monster. He sees the only ally he has in this entire world. He makes a vow with his new partner. This world is full of people who need to be taught a lesson. With a new resolve, he heads to the one place where information, trouble, and opportunity all go to drink. He barely gets one foot in the door before he's confronted by the entire Everton guild. Without his goblin bodyguard, our hero is suddenly feeling very small and very, very mortal. The assassin he humiliated thanks him with a look that could curdle milk, and our boy is not buying it. The guild leader tries to calm things down, completely unaware that they're only alive because his summon is taking a nap. He drops the act and admits it. He didn't save them out of kindness, he saved them because he needs a favor. And just like that, the Everton guild owes him one, promising to help with anything he needs, a deal made in desperation. He lays out his problem. He's a level 30 player stuck in a level 1 zone, and he needs a ticket to the big leagues. The assassin knows exactly what he's talking about, but finding a way to the next area is a secret known only to a few. And the one person who can help is the very same old man who led him into an ambush just yesterday. Turns out, the guy who set the trap is also the only one who holds the key, and our hero has just walked into another one. The old man who set him up is now bowing so low, he's practically sweeping the floor with his beard. He's trying to flatter our hero, calling him a legend for taking down the goblin, a goblin that's currently napping in his hotel room. Meanwhile, Patton the Annihilator is still trying to process how he got annihilated by a single pebble. And our boy is sweating buckets trying to play it cool while his imposter syndrome goes into overdrive. Because he knows the terrifying truth. Without his summon, he's just a one-hit wonder waiting to happen. The old man starts laying out the map, explaining the 5 basic dungeons of the beginner area. From the slime fields to the dark forests, these are the training grounds he's supposed to be grinding in. But there's a catch. To leave this tutorial zone, you have to conquer a special raid dungeon. These aren't your average open-world dungeons. They're limited-time events that only open on a schedule. It's the final exam of the beginner area, and if you can't clear it, you're stuck here forever. The assassin reveals their entire guild was here for the monthly raid dungeon, the only ticket out of this tutorial zone. And our hero's brain connects the dots with a dawning, stomach-churning horror. The assassin confirms it. The raid was yesterday, and the monster that ruined everything was his own goblin. Which means he's trapped in this beginner town for an entire month, and his face says it all. He's got a god-tier summon and a bank account to match, but he's stuck in a zone where he can't even grind for pocket change. The new assertive hero is not having it, grabbing the assassin and demanding another way out of this prison. But the assassin just smirks, telling him he's not the only one whose time is being wasted. And with that, he declares their debt repaid, washing his hands of the whole situation. Just like that, they abandon him, leaving him high and dry in a city that thinks he's a hero. But the guild leader's last look isn't one of triumph. It's a look that says she knows they just left a ticking time bomb behind. The guild walks away, leaving him stranded, but they're about to regret turning their backs on him. Because while our hero stews, his little green chaos agent is about to break the game's biggest rule. And that's the face of a summon who just found the open raid button and decided to press it. Suddenly the sky rips open, and the system announces the one event that shouldn't be happening for another month. The entire city is in an uproar, because the game's unbreakable schedule just got shattered. Even the guild's top assassin can't believe it. The raid is officially back on the menu. The system notification confirms it. This isn't a glitch, it's a special delivery. And our hero realizes his 1-month prison sentence just got commuted. Patton's embarrassment turns to pure greed. This is his chance for a do-over. And the very guild that abandoned him is now making a mad dash for the raid he just accidentally summoned. The guild realizes the raid is completely empty, meaning all the loot is theirs for the taking. And the leader's first thought isn't about danger, it's about how much richer they're about to get. But from the shadows, our hero's smile is anything but friendly. He's finally put it all together. He steps out, calling them out on their lie. They didn't abandon him, they betrayed him to get a head start. And he absolutely loses it, screaming at himself for being naive enough to trust anyone ever again. The guild leader panics, trying to talk her way out of it, but the damage is already done. But the assassin just cuts him off, asking if he's done crying because our boy is absolutely not letting them go in alone. So the assassin lays out the plan, treating him like a tag-along who needs his hand held. He explains that this raid is a one-way ticket straight to the final boss, with no mobs to slow them down. And with a classic dose of high-ranker arrogance, he says it's not dangerous, but they should try to be careful anyway. Patton the Annihilator is back, and his ego is somehow even bigger than before. He gives them 10 seconds to clear the boss, and the whole guild charges in like they actually believe him. But our hero just watches them go with a smile that says he knows something they don't. And just like that, the entire guild dives headfirst into the raid, completely oblivious to what's waiting. He tells his little green nuke to hang back. He's not ready to show his hand just yet. Because the memory of his last party is a lesson he's never going to forget. Trust no one. But just in case, he's got his own auto-revive stone because this time, he's prepared for the betrayal. He decides to stop overthinking and throws himself right into the fire after them. He steps through the portal, and the door to the beginner zone slams shut behind him for good. And for the first time, he's standing in a real boss raid, ready to play in the big leagues. The guild thought they were getting a free pass, but the game just upgraded their raid to a hidden dungeon with a boss to match. The blame game starts immediately, as the guild's top players accuse each other of leading them into a trap. The guild leader screams at him to run for his life, but she's about to find out he doesn't do running anymore. But our boy just smiles, because while they see a death trap, he sees a golden opportunity. He calls them out for their cowardice, asking if they have any idea what kind of loot drops in a place like this. The assassin screams back that the rewards don't matter when the boss is high enough to cause real-world pain. Our hero just scoffs because to him, a 10-level difference is just a Tuesday. He reminds them that getting strong isn't easy, and this is the kind of high-risk, high-reward gamble that makes legends. So he makes them an offer they can't refuse. Run away like cowards, and he'll gladly take every last piece of treasure for himself. And with a flick of his wrist, he summons his secret weapon, ready to show this guild what a real monster looks like. And his secret weapon is the same unhinged goblin that started this whole mess. But the goblin looks around, completely unimpressed, wondering where the real party's at. Too bad the party's already started, and the boss is a level 40 armored titan charging straight for them. But our hero isn't screaming in fear. He's screaming in rage, demanding his goblin get to work. And just like that, the guild's cocky assassin gets one-shotted, proving this boss doesn't play around. But the other assassin couldn't care less about his fallen comrade. He's just realized something far more terrifying. The exit is gone. The game has officially locked them in with a monster they can't beat. The old man realizes their fatal mistake. This isn't just a raid, it's a hidden boss that manifested inside it. They're trapped with a level 40 hidden boss, and their only options are fight or die. And back in the real world, our hero's face is set with a cold, terrifying calm. He's been waiting for this. Even a level 30 player gets deleted in a single hit, and the guild's confidence shatters. And our boy realizes he's been running around with the base stats of a wet noodle because he forgot to level up. But he's not worried about dying. He's furious that this useless goblin cost him a mountain of treasure. The guild leader isn't mourning her fallen, she's calling for blood, and the hunt is on. But wait, our hero isn't dead. He just realized he used his auto-revive stone by accident. The guild leader unleashes her first move, ready to show this boss what a real raid party can do. With a party-wide speed buff, they're about to turn this fight into a high-speed execution. The old man sends in his fastest players as bait, completely ignoring the dead weight on the floor. The two elite assassins become blurs of motion, convinced they're too fast for the boss to even track. Too bad the boss isn't impressed, and it's about to teach them the difference between fast and food. The assassins unleash a flurry of coordinated strikes, moving too fast for the eye to follow. Their plan is simple: pepper the boss with 32 slashes to pinpoint its single weakest point. But their flawless strategy results in a big fat 0, and the assassin's confidence takes a nosedive. The lead assassin calmly deduces there are only two possibilities. Either its defense is impossibly high, or this boss is playing by an entirely different set of rules. He decides to test that theory himself, leaping in to deliver a much more personal attack. He unleashes his ultimate skill, unrivaled sword, and finally manages to draw blood. But his face says it all. That single hit took everything he had, and it barely left a scratch. And then the system drops the bombshell. The boss has a passive skill that literally ignores weak players. Suddenly, the entire guild is looking at one man, realizing he's the only one strong enough to even hurt this thing. But the old man shuts him down, revealing their real ace in the hole isn't the swordsman, but someone far more dangerous. Meet the guild's secret weapon, an archer whose ultimate skill turns her own life force into a one-shot nuke. Patton realizes who she is, and immediately offers to be the meat shield, ready to buy her all the time she needs. He unleashes a war cry, officially volunteering to be the boss's personal punching bag. And the boss is more than happy to oblige, turning its full, undivided attention on the screaming distraction. Our hero can only watch in horror, thinking this guy is a moron for taunting a monster he should be running from. The boss delivers a ground-shattering blow, ready to turn their tank into a pancake, but Patton just shrugs it off, taunting the boss that he's barely breaking a sweat. The old man warns him not to get cocky, because their entire plan hinges on this next move. And that's when he reveals their trump card, a pain-sharing skill that turns 2 players into 1 super tank. Our hero is watching this whole elaborate plan and he's just thinking, these guys are amateurs. While the tanks hold the line, the assassin squad moves in to chip away at the boss's defenses, 1 tiny percentage at a time. And for the first time, he sees what a real coordinated guild raid looks like, and it's terrifyingly effective. But his awe quickly turns to panic. If they kill the boss while he's dead, he gets absolutely nothing. But just as the guild's plan is coming together, the boss just stops. Patton the Annihilator is completely baffled. His taunt just wore off at the worst possible moment. Because the boss isn't looking at the tanks anymore, it's locked onto a brand new target. And from the floor rises our hero, done playing dead and ready to steal the show. He's ready for his heroic entrance, but the system confirms it. He's not joining the fight, he is the fight. The boss unleashes an attack that wipes out half the assassins, and suddenly our hero's grand return has made him enemy number 1. Patton the Annihilator stands over his fallen comrades, and his rage is about to rewrite the raid plan. He roars, ready to show this boss exactly why they call him the Annihilator. But the old man screams a warning, realizing Patton's rage just made him the perfect target. Patton ignores him, unleashing a Giga Slash so massive it's meant to be a one-hit wonder. The boss takes the hit and delivers a counter-strike so fast the server can barely register it. And the old man's pain distribution skill backfires spectacularly, turning his cunning plan into a suicide pact. Our hero can only stare in disbelief as the system confirms the guild's 2 main tanks just got deleted. He's screaming in denial, realizing his grand return just got everyone else killed. But the last elite assassin isn't mourning. He's analyzing the battlefield with ice in his veins. Because he knows the iron rule of raiding. The boss always goes for the squishies first. But their brilliant plan had one fatal flaw. The boss preferred the screaming idiot over the squishy targets. And the guild's strategist finally puts it together. Our hero's revival didn't just save him, it reset the entire fight. Their last hope, an archer burning her own life for 1 shot, is about to have a full-blown panic attack. But her partner screams at her to hold the line, because firing that arrow now means they all die for nothing. Their master plan to stack debuffs is only halfway done, and that's nowhere near enough to take this thing down. So the last assassin standing decides to play hero, volunteering to be the new meat shield. He bets the entire raid on her 1 shot, screaming that it's their only way out of this mess. Our boy tries to offer a helping hand, but the guild just asks what a nobody can do without his monster. The archer doesn't just dismiss him, she screams that he's nothing but a liability. And in that moment, he realizes the brutal truth. Without his goblin, he's not a hero, he's just a joke. He snaps, screaming that it's their fault his secret weapon isn't here, and they're the ones to blame. So he gives them a smile that could freeze hell and tells them to go ahead and die. He'll just watch. But the boss has other plans, and the system announces it's locked onto the 1 player they can't afford to lose. The guild's strategist confirms their worst fear. The boss's AI is programmed to hunt down their glass cannon first. So their last elite assassin steps up, taunting a monster 10 times his size that he's the real opponent here. He unleashes a twin-blade rave, a desperate high-risk move to buy their archer a few precious seconds. The boss just roars, completely unfazed and ready to swat him like a fly. But he gets sent flying and just bounces back, screaming that the fight is far from over. He leaps back into the fray, ready to teach this overgrown tin can a lesson in how to properly hold aggro. And he unloads another full-power combo, proving that even cornered, he's one of the best in the game. He's putting on a masterclass in desperation, throwing every last bit of skill he has at the boss. His plan is simple. If you can't out-taunt it, you out-damage it, forcing it to see you as the biggest threat. But his ego takes a massive hit. It took 3 of his best attacks just for the boss to even acknowledge him. And just like that, the system confirms it. He's officially the center of the monster's undivided attention. He's barely scratched its health bar, but he's convinced his heroic play just bought them all the time they need. So he drops the most famous last words in gaming history. What's the matter? You mad? He goes for his ultimate dodge skill, his ace in the hole, only to get the 2 words every gamer dreads, insufficient mana. And in that split second, he realizes his heroic sacrifice just turned into a very public execution. Our hero can only watch as the guild's last hope gets completely and utterly shut down. With his dying breath, the assassin looks right at our hero, and the blame is crystal clear. He's not grieving the fallen, he's screaming that reviving was the biggest mistake of his life. But the archer screams back that his selfish revival just cost them everything. And he finally admits it. He'd rather they all die than see them get the reward without him. Too bad their argument is cut short by the only opinion that matters right now. And just like that, their rage turns to pure synchronized terror. The system confirms their worst nightmare. With everyone else gone, they're the only two targets left. The archer decides to take the shot, ready or not, because it's their only way out. But just as she's about to fire, he casually walks right into her line of sight. He asks a simple question with a terrifying smile. "You can't move while charging, can you?" And he proves that the boss isn't the only monster in this room. The archer is terrified, not of the boss, but of the man who just became her only hope. He scoops her up, taunting that he's about to buy her the 10 seconds she desperately needs. But the boss isn't waiting, and it's closing the distance with ground-shattering speed. She can't believe it. This nobody is moving faster than their guild's legendary speedster. And he reveals his secret. He dumped every single stat point into agility, a move so insane no one would ever do it. With her ultimate shot finally charged, he gives the order, "Fire now," or they both become a footnote. The pressure is on. If this one shot misses, their entire raid was for nothing. But he's not just saving her. He's demanding she pay him back for every single thing, including the revival stone he wasted. Too bad the boss has a counter move of its own, and it's winding up for a party wipe. And with a roar, the boss unleashes a spinning attack designed to erase everything in the room. With her life on the line, she unleashes the one shot that could end this entire nightmare. He screams for the kill shot, because her health bar just hit 1%, and they are completely out of time. But the boss has one last surprise, an ultimate AoE called World Demolisher, and it's about to wipe the map. The entire room erupts, and their one chance at victory is about to be buried under an avalanche of destruction. He grits his teeth, realizing the boss wasn't just spinning, it was hiding a room-clearing death sentence this whole time. And he does the math in a split second. With her at 1% and him at 100 HP, a single hit means game over for them both. But their perfect shot is ruined, as the boss's attack fills the air with so much debris she can't get a clean lock. Just as she's about to give up, her brain flashes with a sudden impossible idea. She asks if he's found a solution, but he just smirks, saying it's a memory of a game he used to play with his friends. And that's when he remembers his real ace in the hole, summoning a power so dark it makes the boss look like a warm-up act. He summons his goblin, which literally shatters the fabric of the dungeon to answer the call. But he's not relieved. He's screaming at his world-ending summon for being fashionably late to its own party. The archer is having a full-blown crisis, realizing this summon didn't use a portal. It punched a hole through the game's code. He screams the most ridiculous skill name in history, and his goblin becomes a living shield, tanking the boss's ultimate for 0 damage. The boss roars in fury, its game-ending attack completely nullified by a tiny green speed bump. With his plan in motion, our hero just smirks, telling the boss its reign of terror is officially over. And with his goblin bodyguard and the archer as his turret, he announces it's time for the grand finale. He gives her the perfect shot, and she unleashes an arrow so powerful it's practically a tactical nuke. The arrow connects, and the invincible boss begins to crumble, its armor shattering like cheap pottery. And with a final crash, the raid is over, leaving them standing in a room full of loot and shattered expectations. The archer is in stunned silence. They didn't just survive, they won, and she just jumped 4 entire levels. And our boy is right there with her, celebrating a 3-level jump like he just won the world championship. But his victory dance is cut short by a primal scream for the one thing that truly matters, the loot. And just like that, the entire guild is revived, with their leader asking if everyone made it back in one piece. Patton's back on his feet, brushing it off like it was just another Tuesday raid, completely underestimating the danger. But the system's revive all had one very permanent exception. The guild leader's relief turns to ice as he turns to settle the score. And suddenly our hero is cornered, screaming at the very people he just saved to stay back. The archer is completely baffled by his panic, about to drop a truth bomb he's not ready for. Because while he's busy having a public meltdown, the game is still rewarding him for a job well done. He's not just happy about the win, he's having a full-blown meltdown over the loot. But the archer's victory is crushed by a system message. She failed the one test that mattered. She thought victory was the key, but the game just told her she's missing a crucial step. And our boy connects the dots, realizing this raid wasn't just about killing the boss, it was a secret exam. He's already reverse engineered the game's logic, but right now only one thing matters: the shiny new drops. But just as he's about to cash in, the game decides to throw him another curveball at the worst possible time. The archer tries to play peacemaker, reminding him that teamwork means sharing the prize. And he responds with the grace and diplomacy of a rabid animal. The guild can only stare as he goes full Gollum over the loot, and they are not impressed. But the guild leader just sighs, deciding it's better to let the psycho have his prize than start another war. The guild leader puts his foot down, asking if our hero is really going to take this fight to the next level. But it's not the leader he should be worried about. It's the old man who just activated his cunning skill right behind him. Our boy absolutely explodes, screaming that this is the second time this snake has tried to stab him in the back. The guild leader tries to play peacemaker, reminding him that if they wanted him gone, he'd already be a loot drop. But he's not interested in their threats, because his eyes are locked on the real prize, a unique item, the great bow of the Iron Giant. The archer calls him out immediately. He can't even use it. So what's the plan? Use a priceless artifact for firewood? And the system confirms it. The bow is untradeable and class-locked, making it a very shiny, very useless trophy. But logic has left the building. He's having a full-blown tantrum, screaming that he wants it even if he can't use it. And just as they're about to write him off as a psycho, the rage vanishes, replaced by a cold, calculating smile. He's not giving it away for free. He's about to leverage a useless item into the deal of a lifetime. He's not just negotiating. He's holding a priceless artifact hostage with a laugh that could curdle milk. And the old man finally gets it. This wasn't a rescue, it was a long con for a payday. The assassin looks on in horror, realizing our hero's become just as unhinged as the monster he commands. Even his goblin knows when to lay low, hiding in the rubble like the perfect little accomplice. And just like that, the deal is done, and the archer gets her priceless, untradeable bow. The guild leader admits it. Our boy has a real talent for getting what he wants, and an even bigger talent for being hated. They ask him where he's headed next, hoping for some hint of his grand plan. But his only plan is to get as far away from these backstabbers as humanly possible. And with that, the Everton Guild walks away, leaving him completely alone for the first time. But the archer's last look isn't one of hatred. It's a look that promises this isn't the last time they'll meet. With the raid over, it's time for a little performance review, and his goblin is getting a 1-star rating. He might have lost the bow, but he gained a one-time use, get-out-of-jail-free card for stealing almost anything he wants. But while the guild was blinded by the shiny weapon, our boy's inner miner spotted the real prize they completely ignored. And with a smile that screams no regrets, he decides that since they betrayed him first, all this loot is just karma. He steps into the next major city, Fiorendel, leaving the tutorial zone and its drama far behind. But this isn't the minor leagues anymore. He's surrounded by legendary players whose gear costs more than his entire life. And our hero's first thought isn't about glory or power, it's that he can literally smell the money in the air. But before he can start his get-rich-quick scheme, he's haunted by the memory of getting one-shotted, and his pride demands an upgrade. And then he realizes he's been fighting world-ending bosses while wearing armor that literally gives him negative defense. Just as he's having this revelation, his little green agent of chaos decides it's the perfect time to demand his attention. He lays down the law for his little green menace. One wrong move, and it's back in the box. But his lecture is cut short by a boss monster the size of a building, and suddenly he's not the scariest thing on the block. And just like that, the master becomes the meat shield, screaming for his world-ending summon to save him. But a new voice cuts through the chaos, and it's not impressed by his goblin. It's amused. Meet Irene, a level 76 summoner who just casually asked if his little green problem child is his. And our hero's brain finally catches up. That's not a boss monster, that's her pet. She says her summon is perfectly harmless, but the puddle of drool it's leaving on his head says otherwise. He doesn't need a system notification to know the truth. This woman is in a league he can't even comprehend yet. Because the game's top guilds, Everton included, don't even bother fighting her. They just run. And she looks down at him like a curious god, asking the name of the cute child who just stumbled into her world. He blurts out his ridiculous name, but she's not interested in him. She's asking about his world-ending sidekick. She asks if he's even bothered to name his partner, and her tone is dripping with judgment. He completely loses it. screaming that only a crazy person would get attached to a summoned monster. But she drops a cryptic warning that one-sided relationships are doomed to fail, and he's on the losing end. She points out his monster is already in a battle stance to protect a master who won't even give it a name. And with a final, condescending smile, she leaves him with a challenge. Try not to be so boring next time. He tries to save face, yelling that they're a perfect team, but he's fooling absolutely no one. But just as he's about to storm off, a new voice stops him cold, staring in horror at his gear. Meet Humphrey the Foul-Mouthed, an NPC blacksmith who confirms his armor is worse than wearing actual garbage. The blacksmith offers him a basic upgrade, but the price tag is a brutal reminder that in this world even survival isn't cheap. He realizes that without armor, he's just a walking, talking weak point for his own team. So he swallows his pride and his life savings and hits purchase. The blacksmith gives him the gear with a backhanded compliment about using the best steel for the biggest idiots. He suits up, feeling like a real player for the first time, for about 5 seconds. Because his all-agility build just turned his brand new armor into a very expensive, very shiny prison. He tries to get a refund, but the blacksmith's buyback price is a masterclass in highway robbery. But just as he's about to lose it, a quest marker pops up and our boy smells an opportunity. The blacksmith freaks out, completely unaware he's become a walking tutorial mission. Turns out his legendary hammer has vanished, and without it, his entire business is dead in the water. And just like that, our hero goes from broke customer to the only person who can solve this NPC's problem. The blacksmith points him to an underground dungeon, begging him to retrieve the hammer that's his entire livelihood. But the real reward isn't gold. It's the power to process raw materials, turning junk into treasure. And his brain connects the dots with the speed of a supercomputer. The priceless materials from the raid boss are about to make him richer than he ever dreamed if he can just get this one hammer. Suddenly, our boy's desperation turns into a predator's smile. This isn't a quest, it's a payday. He's done with backstabbing teammates. From now on, it's just him and his little green agent of chaos. He boasts that he'll clear this easy dungeon in 30 minutes, but he's about to get a very loud reality check. Because this isn't a fetch quest, it's an escort mission, and now he's stuck babysitting the world's most annoying NPC.